topic for tonight, it's about ASHURA. The ASHURA means, which comes from the word ASHURA, and ASHURA means is 10th. And ASHURA is the 10th day of Muharramul Haram, or the month of Muharram, the 10th day of the month of Muharram. And it is a significant value in Islam. You can consider one of the greatest day in the Islamic calendar, one of the greatest day in the Islamic calendar. One of the significant things which we are going to talk tonight about, the sacrifice given by the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, included his family. But beside that, there were so many other incidents happen on that day. So many incidents. For example, the Prophet Adam alayhi salam, he was forgiven by Allah for his sin in paradise, disobeying Allah. Then he was forgiven on the day of ASHURA. Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, when he was saved from his people through the ark, through the ship, that was the day of ASHURA. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was saved from the fire, that was also the day of ASHURA. And the Prophet Musa alayhi salam, when he was crossed the Red Sea and saved from Fir'aun, the Pharaoh, he and his people, that was also the day of ASHURA. And when Prophet Yunus or Jonah, when he came out from the belly of the fish, that was also the day of ASHURA. And even the end of the world will happen, will be day of ASHURA, and that will be the Friday. Day of ASHURA, and that will be the Friday. And even the day of resurrection, the people will come out from the graves. That will be the day of ASHURA. And that will be also Friday. So Friday, the end of the world, and the same day, resurrection. Because once the end of the world finished, that was ASHURA, the Jummah, Friday. And when resurrection will happen, it's still the same ASHURA, Friday. Because the sun and moon, everything is destroyed, so the day starts with the same day, ASHURA. If the happening of what happened to the Prophet's family, the Ahl Bayt, on that day, if that was happened during the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, or during the time when the Quran was revealed, then it should mention in the Quran. It should mention in the Quran. I can assure that my own opinion, I can say it should be mentioned in the Quran if it was happened before the revelation of the Quran or during the revelation of the Quran. Because if you can check the history of the human being, all the prophets included their followers, we cannot find this kind of incident. We cannot find this kind of incident in all the human history, especially the best of the people, the Prophet's history. We cannot find this kind of example. If a man is going to sacrifice everything he has, the Hussein, the son of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, not the son but grandson, considered as son of his daughter Fatima, the Hussein, a beloved grandson of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. There is no incident you can check in all the Prophet's history, all the righteous people history. We cannot find any incident is like this kind of incidents when person is not going to surrender to the evil and he wants to give up his everything. Himself, his family, everything he has is going to give up. He's going to give away for the sake of Allah. He wants to sacrifice everything he has, including himself. One by one, all his companions were slaughtered in his eyes. His sons were slaughtered, his nephews slaughtered, his brothers were slaughtered. Everybody in his family was slaughtered. Only one of his sons was left, the Imam Zainul Abidin, and rest all his male members of his group were slaughtered. And only the female were left. And he knew that once he will be martyred, his family going, his female members of his family, they will be going to abused. But he doesn't want to compromise against the religion of Allah. He doesn't want to compromise. He doesn't want to place to Yazid, who was a tyrant, who was a monarchist. And Islam is a religion which is against monarchism. Islam doesn't allow the monarchism in system. The well-known in history, there was a first movement against the monarchism. Today we are speaking about, listening about the West talking about they are against the monarchism and they want the people will have equality and they have the kings will have no protocols, etc. The kings will not live like a kings, but it is actually it's just a talking only. If you go in the West today, there are many European countries, they still have the monarchism. They still have the kingdoms. They have a kings and queens. Like in UK, in England, they still have a queen. They still have a palace. And this is against Islam. When Prophet sent his people all around the world to the superpowers, like Persian and Romans, they get the palaces and they give it to the people. They don't allow people, they don't allow the kings to live like a king. The kings should live as ordinary people. So the palaces and all the wealth in the palaces was given to the people. When the Prophet companions were conquering the land, they dismantled the monarchism. The Roman and the Persian were the two superpowers, and their kingdoms were destroyed, and it was given to the people. That this is for the people. They have no right to eat the money of the people. If you can check today, the so-called world today, they are talking against monarchists, that they don't want to have a monarchism in any country of the world. But even those countries, they do not have the kings and queens today, except those countries with the queens and kings and queens. Like in Malaysia, they have a king. Like in Thailand, they have a king. Even those countries, they do not have any more kings and queens anymore. But their president, their prime minister, they live like a kings also. With the money of the people, they live like a queen also. The America is talking about anti-monarchism. They say there is no monarchist in the world today. They don't want to accept the monarchism. They're talking about equality between the rulers and the subject. But look at America. They too have a palace. They have a palace there, White House. If you go to the White House, it's like a palace. Even the Air Force One used by the President of America, it's like a palace also. But Islam doesn't allow that. When Umar radiallahu anhu, when he was the Khalifa, he did not make any palace. He did not make any throne to sit on that. He did not make any robe, special robe like the kings wearing, or the crown wearing like a king, no. Even though he was ruling all around the world, the Umar, but he did not act like a king. So when Osman came, same thing. When Ali came as the Khalifa, still he is public servant. Because in Islam, the ruler must be a public servant. Then Islam doesn't allow that the ruler can act like a king. The ruler must act as a public servant. But you cannot get this example in the world today. Can you reach in the world today, can you reach to the presidents and to the prime ministers? No. But in Islam, president is within the public. Anybody can reach to the president. Anybody can reach to the Khalifa. He is praying in the masjid together with other people. He is accessible to the people because in Islam, there is no protocol. There is no superiority, like example, you are driving a car with emergency and then the president or prime minister car come, they have to move you, give the way to the president and prime ministers. They call the protocol. But in Islam, no such thing allowed. In Islam, the ruler is not a king, rather the ruler is a public servant. And he is answerable to the public for all his actions. Any person can go and ask him about the treasure, about the finance, about the liquidation, and they have to answer that to the public. Because in Islam, the rulers are just act as public servant. So when Ali was Khalifa, and he was serving the people, and then he got the conflict with Muawiyah, who was the father of Yazid, and they have a war between Ali and Muawiyah, and Ali was almost to defeat, and the Muawiyah wanted to solve their conflict with the Quran. So they get the arbitrators from two sides. From the Ali side is Abu Musa Ashari, and the side of the Muawiyah was Amr bin al-As. And they get the time of 6 months. During that time, Ali was martyred by the Khawarij, the bad people. That people like today, the terrorist people, these people, like this kind of people, they killed Ali. And after Ali, not because of the monarchy, that the father died, the son should come to take over. No, it's not allowed in Islam. But because his son Hassan, Imam Hassan, he was eligible to become the Khalifa. And it was with the choice of the people. The choice of the people, choice of the majority of leaders, they agreed that the next Khalifa should be Hassan. The Imam Hassan should be the Khalifa. So he became Khalifa for 6 months to 1 year. And he stepped down in favor of Muawiyah, just to solve the conflict. He don't want that the war will be continued and more bloodshed will happen. So the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad Hassan, he stepped down. And he gave the way to Muawiyah that if this Khilafah is my right, if it is right of Muawiyah, then he get it. And if it is my right, and I give away to him to rule according to the rule of Islam. So there was no problem yet. And after Muawiyah, there was no person on the face of the earth, because Hassan was the Prophet's grandson, the Hassan, he died. Some people say it was a conspiracy, political, to kill him with the poison. Allah knows best. And the right person, that with religiosity, with the knowledge, and with the ability, the person he should be Khalifa now after Muawiyah was Hussein. No one else can take over the rule of Islam except the Hussein. But because the Muawiyah died, in the death of Muawiyah, the Yazid took over as a monarchist. And he was not eligible. He was drinking the alcohol. He was not religious. He has no knowledge of Quran. And he has no ability. And he has no political knowledge how to rule. Nothing, zero. But he just took over the rule because of his father's throne. And that's against Islam. And that was the reason of Hussein to back out, not to pledge him, not to make biyah. He doesn't want to biyah because he knows Yazid is the drunkard, drinking alcohol. He's not following the Islam, and he has no eligibility to become ruler, to become Khalifa. And people have started to write to him letters that we don't want to accept Yazid as our Khalifa, and you are the right person according to the Quran and according to Sunnah. You are the right person to become Khalifa, who can rule the Islam according to Quran and Sunnah. So he was in Medina, then from Medina he went to Makkah with his family, and Yazid was making conspiracy. And then he wanted to go to Iraq with his family because they're calling him to give the bay'ah, the pledge, to take over the Khilafah. While he's going on the way, they were halted at Karbala, in somewhere in Iraq, and they were stopped the water for 3 days, no water for drink, no food to eat. And they were conquered by more or less 30,000 troops. Against the 72 people, most of them were children and women. And they have no weapons, no good enough weapons, and they were only 72. Versus the army of 30,000. And they told them, if you give the pledge to Yazid, which is not according to Islam, his rule is not according to Islam. And they tell to Hussein, if you pledge to Yazid, take it or leave it. If you make him Khalifa, you accept him Khalifa, we free you. But if you don't want to accept him as the Khalifa, then we are going to fight with you here right now. And we're going to slaughter you all. Now what Hussein can do? He has a choice. Either he fight with his people to this army, or either he give up Islam to accept this anti-Islam Khalifa. So he chose that I will give my life and everybody's life, but I will not submit to anti-Islam. I will not submit to something which is not according to Islam. So one by one, all his companions, until the day of ASHURA, the 10th of Muharram, all his companions, the male companions were killed, martyred, very bad manners. They cut their heads, they cut their limbs. They did not give the water even to the infants. When he asked his son, Ali Asghar, 6 months old, and he asked the people, the army, just this small baby give water, because that baby cannot fight to you with water. Just give a little water. They throw the arrow and killed his son Ali Asghar, the small baby, 6 months old. So all of them were killed, and finally he was killed on the day of ASHURA. And when they were about to beheaded him, he put his head on the floor, making sajda, patiraba, and he was martyred in that position. Now the example here, what we learned from that story, because the story is too long to mention here for this time. What will happen here? You can go in the website and you can learn, and you will be crying for what happened to them. You will really feel very sorry for them, that how miserably they were tortured and killed, martyred in the way of Allah. And how strong faith they had. They did not submit it, the Hussein and his people.